Welcome to the Creepy Crap Chronicles, where the content is so creepy you will crap yourself. G'day guys, how's it going? Today, the Creepy Crap Chronicles presents to you two creepy stalker stories from Letsnotmeet. If you like the video, then please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy. So my creep/stalker isn't a complete stranger, but we aren't besties. I'd say we were barely acquaintances before he decided to be a creep. So, at my college, I hang out with a bunch of anime fans, since we do have an anime/Japanese culture club. And some of those people happen to be my younger friends fresh out of high school. Among these anime fans, we have Creep. I met him a year ago, 2 weeks before winter break started. He seemed like an okay kid when I first met him. He was nice enough to buy me and my friends lunch, since we were all broke and jobless. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago when I'm hanging out with my friends to give them moral support for their finals, as I always do when I don't take classes due to money issues. Once again, I run into him, and he seems like an okay kid. Once again, offers to buy me lunch because I'm broke and jobless. While we are in the cafe waiting for my food to be cooked, he scoots a little too close to me and asks if I'm single. I'm completely truthful with him, and I inform Creep that I've been in a very happy relationship for the past 6 months, and that I have no interest in anyone but my beau. His face falls and he's like, "Boo hoo hoo, I wanted to flirt with you, you're so beautiful," and I'm blunt with it. And I tell him, "Sorry bro, but I'm not into you. We can still be friends." We exchange numbers as new friends would. I eat my lunch, and during this, I tell my friend Jai about the guy, and point him out. She then tells me, through text because he was right behind us and the cafe was practically empty, that this guy stalked her in high school. She asked him for a ride home once, and every day after that, he was at her doorstep asking her to hang out. Of course, now I'm freaked out because this guy has my phone number and presumably a car. What's stopping him from following me and my friends? We go to Tate's Comics, and we have a blast. Me and Jai spend a while squealing at all the Sailor Moon stuff, and then I get home. To my city, not my house, because my BF was waiting for me. 2 days later, I get a bunch of disgusting sexual text messages from this guy at like 2 AM, so I was already cranky at being woken up by the Intel jingle screaming at me 5 times. I glance down at my phone and see a glimpse of the texts, and at first assume they're from my boyfriend. Then when I open them up, I see they're from Creep. Cue me throwing up a minute later. This guy isn't a neckbeard, but he's certainly not attractive either. However, I don't want you to think I threw up because I think he was ugly. I threw up because of the explicitness of the texts and level of disrespect that this arsehole has just shown me, and by extension, my boyfriend. I tell Jai, and she tells me not to say anything to him until I've calmed the hell down. I do exactly that, and this is what I tell him. "Excuse me, but who told you it was okay to send me disgusting text messages like this? Because I certainly didn't. I cannot believe you could actually think this is okay, especially because you know damn well I have a boyfriend, and I have no intentions of leaving him. I wanted to give you a chance as a friend, but you've destroyed that. I will be blocking your phone number, and I do not wish to ever speak to you again. Please do not attempt to contact me in any way, or I will have the police involved." I haven't seen him yet, because he doesn't know where I live, and school hasn't started up yet. At first I wanted to embarrass him in front of all our friends, but Jai told me not to, so I won't. I hope once school starts up again, he takes my warning seriously, because if he doesn't, I will report him to campus security, and I will report him to the police if he tries to follow me. I've saved the disgusting texts just in case it does go far enough that I have to go to the police. My freshman year of college was one of the funnest years of my life, and some of my fondest memories are from that year. but it was also the scariest and strangest year to date. I'm 31 now. This is thanks to one story in particular that takes place over the entire school year. I still sometimes wonder how this really happened and I didn't end up a shut-in nutjob, and it still freaks me out to this day. I've only talked about it once or twice since it happened, 13 years ago. August 2001. Like most freshmen, I live in the dorms at a state party school. I opted out of the good school I got into. I guess I had a little steam to blow off after graduating from a military/college prep boarding school. Plus, after a sports injury, I didn't exactly have any specific plan for life that went past Saturday night, if you know what I mean. A good buddy from military school, Bill, went to the same college and lived a few floors below in the same dorm as me. So of course we were getting the party started before my parents' exhaust fumes had even evaporated from the parking lot. For the most part, the first month or so of college was pretty much like that, normal. I went to most of my classes, partied just about every night, chased girls around, and that was enough for the moment. But things began to change one night sometime in mid-September, and college would never be normal again. My dorm phone rings in the middle of the night. Hello? On the other end. I can only really describe the voice as the kind you picture when you think about a computer talking. Kinda like the early model car GPS's. Hi, Gary. How are you today? Not fully awake, I'm just confused at this point. Who is this? He repeats. Hi, Gary. How are you today? It becomes clear I'm being effed with, so I hang up and chuckle. Effing Bill, nice one. I pass back out. I end up forgetting about the call for a few days and never mention it to Bill or anyone else. About a week later, I get another call around the same time of night. Hi, Gary. I'm watching you. Nice. Very cliche. Seriously, Bill, how are you not knee-deep in Everclear or a Tri-Delt at this hour? Enough already. Cade's gonna start getting pissed. I hang up. I casually confront my oh-so-clever amigo at breakfast the next morning, purposely not trying to bite too hard to give him a payoff that might insensitivize continued calls. I also wasn't 100% it was actually him and not another one of my douchebag friends. He gives a genuinely confused response. Whatever. So a couple days after second call, I come home and see I had multiple messages on my answering machine. WTF, I barely knew that thing even worked. It's Computer Voice Guy, CVG. Message 1. My machine cuts off first 1 to 2 seconds of the message, which tells me it's a bot set to play a message upon answer. Hi, Gary. I'm watching you. Message 2. I thought I asked you to answer my calls, Gary. Message 3. Where might Gary be on a Tuesday night? Okay, so one of my friends is clearly an arsehole or bored enough to really push for a reaction here. The next day, I play the messages for Cade, who was around during the calls, which were apparently earlier in the night when he was still awake. He'd been a close buddy since we were in junior high, but we'd sort of taken separate paths after high school. So anyway, he's aware I'm a wild child and thinks nothing of the first couple messages. By third, he's a little spooked. I then walk down to a couple other buddies' rooms and casually but immediately bring up the subject. Nada. Over the next couple of days, I press all close and semi-close friends, but get 0 answers and 0 suspects. The calls start coming more frequently over the next couple of months, starting at once a week, then to once every 2 to 3 days, up to every day by Christmas break. I don't say anything to my family at that point, although I really should have. What started out as a decent beginning of college turned into not showing up for any classes, tests, nothing. Grades reflect. and I am too busy answering for a 0.67 GPA to talk about some dumb prank that would likely be dismissed as a pathetic attempt at grades explanation. So it goes. Uneventful break, and back to school, determined to become a new man. I gotta get my shit together with these grades. So I tell Bill I'm gonna have to chill out and focus on school. First night back, I get my spring semester call from CVG. How is your family in Cyprus, my hometown suburb? Okay, now this is effing BS, man. What kind of douche lords am I hanging out with that even have the discipline to drag out a prank this long? I get the answer to that question a few days later, and the answer is none of them. The calls become threatening and downright dark. I'm very interested, Gary, in being close to you. I have tools I could bring. It is going to be all over soon. One day, I bring Bill and all my other buddies up to hear the messages. I guess when things happen over longer periods of time, you don't really feel the cumulative impact until laying out the complete package of evidence. The guys are in shock. I guess I should mention that some of these calls got really specific in making sure to note specific details about my parents' address, as well as the violence they are planning on doing to me. Cut open your esophagus, Gary, with a butter knife. And all sorts of other crap that is sort of blurred together through the hundreds upon hundreds of calls I got over the school year. A chick friend of mine that I'd really liked in high school named Layla goes to a different school hundreds of miles away. We've reconnected thanks to good old AIM and talk from time to time on the phone. CVG had mentioned a couple of times, your friend, and made threats about this unspecified person from time to time, but your friend turned into your friend Layla. Layla and I are the only two people ever named in these calls, but it did get me wondering if this was a new lead to the source. Layla is clueless when I call her about it. Awesome. I know that background was long to read, but you'll understand why I had to explain the situation when I tell you about what happens next. One night, we're all partying and drinking at some hotel. A different buddy, Carl, has a nice big truck we'd all go everywhere in, but he had passed out drunk at the hotel after pounding an entire bottle of whatever there. I'm not really drinking tonight and want to get back to my own bed. I snatch Carl's keys to drive back to campus, thinking I'll drive back in the morning to get everyone. This is one of the few times I'd even driven that year, so I wasn't tip-top on my directions. I make an early turn and am somehow down a road I've never seen. I realize this pretty quick, but I figure I've got the general direction of campus pegged, so I can just continue the wrong road until I'm hitting the familiar highway that I knew I'd eventually have to hit that is close to campus. I'm finding myself in open fields, still a paved road and everything, but aside from the road there was absolutely nothing, and it was completely black. Around 3 AM, there's this really strange four-way stop I come upon. Strange, because I'm probably the fourth person in a year to drive on that road. Anyway, I trudge along, eventually get to the familiar highway, and home free. A few days later, CVG interrupts his usual depraved threatening to mention that specific four-way, day, and time that I was on it, which like I said was around 3 AM, and there wasn't a soul in sight. So yeah, I now realize CVG is obviously tracking my movements somehow. Note, I later joined the military, worked in the intelligence community, and worked special operations and tracked bad guys all around the world. To this day, I still can't figure out how this dude knew I was in the middle of those fields on that date, in the middle of the night. I never mentioned it to anyone. Around March, this apparent rendezvous became CVG's focal point, and he'd make sure to let me know the day, way close. The calls were coming in no fewer than 10 or 15 every single day. Seriously. The ringer was now off out of courtesy to Cade, and I turned down the volume of the answering machine as his phone calls recorded. But I finally get the message I'd been waiting for. Keep in mind, I've now become somewhat famous, or infamous, at this university by now because of CVG. People were constantly knocking on my door wanting to hear the messages. Friend of a friend, of whomever I know, it was all people wanting to hear about it at parties. Blah blah blah. For a split second it was cool because I'm pretty sure I ended up getting a few dates, indirectly, from introductions conceived through interest in the guy with the stalker. Don't judge me. Moving right along, the day, time, location is set. We will meet in front of Coleman Hall at midnight, Wednesday, 27th April, and we will take our friendship to the next level. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, throughout the year I considered the possibility that I was dealing with a female. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and I was definitely that kind of dude when I was 18, 19 years old. The kind that could attract cleanness and anger. But I started to rule out females for various reasons that only a fellow ENFJ would understand. Look it up if you're not tracking. I can build profiles with a very high ratio of accuracy to available information. This creep just didn't feel like a female to me. It didn't even feel like a pair. I was convinced I was dealing with a mid-30s white male computer nerd that I'd come into contact with at some point in my life. Doesn't really matter, because what I ended up finding out on Wednesday 27th of April, which by the way, was Layla's birthday, I was wrong. Of course, everyone wants to be a part of this quote-unquote juicy story, and there's a pretty ridiculous amount of testosterone floating around the dorm on game day. This was a real-life creepster and a legit horror story unfolding before their very eyes, and groupthink will subvert caution if properly motivated. These guys are ready to defend me with their lives, just ask them. So while these monkeys are getting all hopped up on Mountain Dew, I stay home that afternoon wondering what the F I was going to do at midnight. Of course I was going to go, but dude, yeah, I've always been an athlete in good shape, wrestling/football/baseball teams, yada yada. But I'm still a 19-year-old white male, good parents, grew up middle upper class white suburbia, had a good life. In other words, I can definitely hold my own in a street fight, but this, whatever this is, doesn't feel anything like a street fight, or any other kind of fight I've been in. This is a disturbed, violent, angry, possibly grown-ass psychopath that has decided to dedicate almost a full year now of his life to targeting and terrorizing me. So yeah, I'm a little friggin' nervous. My home team crowd steadily built up throughout the afternoon and evening, with probably close to 70 or 80 guys grouped up at our dorm's common area. We were connected to the female dorm at the first floor. Smoking cigarettes and talking about beating the shit out of people and getting effed up, and all the other generic cliche shit you can imagine. Once the party hour approaches, though, over half of the guys splinter off into other various propositions that probably included more traditional fun, like beer bongs and sorority girls. I'm left with about a 15 to 20 member platoon. I decided earlier that I was not going to allow all these knuckleheads to shadow me, but I could definitely use them in case of emergency. I didn't want to risk them spooking out of the meet, so I let them know they will need to stay inside the doors of the common area while I walk out to the meeting spot. Coleman Hall was adjacent to our connected girls' dorm, and about 300 paces outside, door to door, to get to Coleman. The witching hour came, so I leave the crew to begin the longest couple hundred or so paces of my life. My boys can see me through the glass doors, but wouldn't really be able to see much once I get to the Coleman Hall door. About 100 paces out from my spot, I observe two things at the same time. One, some kind of small quick movement in front of the patio walkway that goes all around the building. And two, the movement was in a spot along the walkway where the only normally uber bright bulb is out. I'm not exactly sure how I was able to see him, but I suddenly realized someone is crouched behind one of the contiguous cookie-cutter bushes outside the patio perimeter against one of the building pillars. In dark clothes and a hoodie, he is a few feet off from the path where I'm supposed to meet him, and positioned to where I really should not have been able to see him. Given the pillar blocking any shadow, plus the burnt out, and smashed I later found out, light. In fact, I could have easily walked all the way to the door without ever having noticed someone down there. Nope. I sort of jump mid-step as this happens, and I see him raise up a little, thinking I might have seen him. I see him raise up and take a step toward me, and fight or flight hits. I've learned that my particular fight or flight chooses fight in more mild situations, flight during intense situations, but for shit your pants situations, it's scarier to run away with your back to whatever scary shit I'm dealing with. So I fight. Before I realize what I'm doing, I'm in a dead sprint towards this MF, who I'm guessing sees what I can't yet, which is my platoon busting through the glass doors in hot pursuit. Creepston nopes the F out of there, running on the patio alongside Coleman Hall towards the parking lot. I can tell this isn't the mid-30s computer nerd I predicted. Creepster is above average height, above average broad, and built athletically. That's all I could tell, really. I'm not even sure if he was white, because he was at least tan, if not Hispanic, Middle Eastern, etc. I'm really booking it, as he right turns on a dime at the edge of the building. I realize I'm moving fast enough to catch him, but everyone else is really far behind. I also realize I'm moving so fast I won't be protected as I turn hard right at the corner of the building. If he stops there, I'm toast. As I turn the corner, I see the van sitting alone in the parking lot in front of me. Its running and brake lights flicker on, then off, park into drive, and begins inching forward towards the exit. Home Slice is of course heading for the van, which for some reason sent this whole new level of fear into me. This is it. This is really happening, and I'm going to get effing murdered tonight. But I can't stop. Something keeps me moving forward. I guess I'd come this far, dealt with this crazy BS for almost a full year now, completely unable to do anything other than try to ignore it. I'm not exactly going places academically at this point, and my life doesn't quite have all that much purpose to it yet. If I am going to get schwacked, I will at least know, and this crap will at least be over. Plus, I still have a chance to catch this madman before he gets away. If I could get close enough to dive tackle, I would still be on my own to deal with the creepster, his driver, and now I realize there's a third one that was manning the sliding side door. Awesome! I don't care how badass you think you are when you're a 19-year-old jock. Your chances of taking down 3 grown men that are already violent criminals and prepared to victimize are about 1 in not gonna effing happen, buddy. My turn is wide and slow due to being full on sprint, and I lose ground. I'm probably 20 yards from the lot when he does a flying leap into the side of the van. There couldn't have been any rows of seats for a leap like that. Creepster number 3 slams the sliding door shut as the van peels out of the parking lot, bangs a right, and is gone in an instant. The relief of not being kidnapped, bound, and gagged in that van with 3 psychos who most likely had some pretty horrific plans for me is now just as strong as the dread of the fact that this is still not over with. I was speechless, and so is my platoon as they catch up a minute later. A few of them caught up enough to witness the parking lot scene, but no one was talking. Testosterone has now been replaced with genuine and earnest concern. They all just stood there with me, catching their breath and making sure I was alright. One guy asks if anyone got a plate number. Not even I did. Not enough light. We finally start walking back, and I'm reliving the scene as we retrace our steps. As we get closer to the original meeting spot, I see something that scares me more than anything else in the entire equation has up to this point. On the opposite side of the pillar, where Creepy McCreeperson was crouching, there's a video camera sitting on a stand pointed right at the spot I would have been standing at when I should have not been able to notice him. It's still recording. You have been watching the Creepy Crab Chronicles. Until next time. Muha! Muha!